Israeli President Isaac Herzog yesterday unveiled his so-called People's Framework proposal to replace the government's plan for a reform in the judicial system. Speaking in a primetime address to the nation, Herzog claimed Israel is at the edge of abyss and that civil war is a real threat. Herzog adding that the last few weeks have been tearing the country apart and are harming Israel's economy, security, political ties, and especially Israeli cohesion. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and coalition partners quickly rejected the president's proposal, arguing the framework does not constitute a real change in the system. Meanwhile, hundreds of thousands of anti-government protesters are set to take part in yet another so-called day of disruption that will involve roadblocks across the country, protests in city centers, and also in front of various embassies. Let's hear now from the president and from the Israeli premier from last night.
Whoever thinks that a civil war, a real one involving human lives, is impossible, has no idea how close we are to it. The outline that I am presenting today is a golden path that brings together in a proper, decent, balanced and constructive manner the perceptions, beliefs, worries and concerns. It reflects the greatest space of agreement and common ground. My compromise is not the president's but the people's.
As for the president's proposal, I think every attempt to reach an agreement and talks is admirable, and thus the coalition representatives went and talked to the president several times, although the opposition members were not willing to discuss even once. Unfortunately, the issues the president proposed were not approved by the coalition representatives, and the main parts of his proposal will only worsen the current situation and cannot guarantee the balance needed between the authorities in Israel. This is the unfortunate truth.
And still with me in studio is senior diplomatic correspondent Owen Alterman. Owen, before we get to all these reactions, I want to hear your insight into what's written in this outline by the president. How is it different or similar to what the government had in mind?
It's fairly different, Guy. I mean, it's similar in its broad outlines that it wants to change things, including some significant things in terms of how the Israeli legal system, the Israeli judicial system works. But you heard from the prime minister and other members of the coalition. They're obviously not satisfied with this. It doesn't go far enough or correct what they see as problems in the system. The reality, Guy, is this. The bottom line is this is a proposal that does not have 61 votes in the Israeli Knesset. On the other hand, in my view, my suspicion at least, the bills that are currently being legislated as written also, at the end of the day, don't have 61 votes. Do you think they have 61 votes on third reading? The bills is currently reading. I think it's an open secret they probably don't. So there's no plan A, there's no plan B. So Benjamin Netanyahu is going to have to come up with a plan C. It's hard to see exactly what that might be. I have said since January, I have not changed my mind. These bills simply will not pass as written because they'll lead to an economic collapse and a social collapse. So there have to be changes made to them. This will not be the package that passes. But in terms of what will pass and how will these packages not pass, those are the big mysteries. And Benjamin Netanyahu is running out of good political options. He has always been known as the magician. I think he's fumbling for that rabbit to pull out of the hat. He hasn't found the rabbit yet. I think he's going to have to continue to look, but he doesn't have a lot of good options. The question is, what is it that's going to come out of the Israeli parliament, of the Israeli Knesset, and at what cost is that going to come out? Is it going to come out, for example, at the cost of some kind of breakup of the coalition or the government? Those are the big questions before us. Of course, we're heading into a day of mass protest in Israel. This story is certainly not dying down.
Yes, and we want to take our viewers straight to these protests because we cross live now to our Pierre Klosh-Handler. He's standing by for us at the Azrieli Center at Hashalom train station right there in the heart of Tel Aviv. Pierre, where you stand now, has become the hub of the protests in recent weeks. We've seen Israel's main highway being closed off so many times. What can we expect today?
Well, we're going to expect the same. They call it a day of resistance like last week. We expect exactly the same, and the police has already closed the main thoroughfare that connects the eastern part of Tel Aviv with the western part of Tel Aviv, and you can see now it's empty of cars, and already there are some unusual demonstrators. Igor Basilenko is going to show you there are demonstrators that are supportive of the judicial reform that has been that has been promoted by the current government. These people speak about the dictatorship of the Supreme Court, and at the same time they have a conciliatory message of unity. We are all brothers, and they demonstrate exactly on the bridge overlooking the Ayalon Highway, which crosses Tel Aviv from south to north, and a lot of car drivers are beeping with their cars in support. Now, it's not clear whether they have read what's written here against the dictatorship of the Supreme Court. They probably are reading they're probably seeing the Israeli flag, which has been, in a sense, captured by the protesters, and there's a lot of reaction.
Pierre, we will be hearing from you a lot more in the coming hours as these protests continue. Owen Alterman, thank you very much.